tired. I am so tired. My back hurts. But this is the kind of work that you do now so that I have killer produce in 3-4 months. So if anything else, do not skimp on rejuvenating your soil. Put in the work, do it. You will be thankful for it. This is really a pep talk for myself because my shoulders and my lower back are killing me right now.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to week 10 vlog. It is soil amending week. And it's not starting out that great for me. I brought my whole camera, my whole setup, and I didn't have a memory card. But that's okay, I was trying to manage a lot of things this morning. So I just want to show you, we're at my community plot and it is all empty and cleaned out. And so today we're going to be spreading some amendments. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show it to you the way I wanted to. But when I get home later, we will talk about the soil amendments and what we do and why. And I think on my checklist for leaving home from now on, I'm going to put, make sure you have a memory card. So welcome to week 10 vlog. We're amending soil this week because next week we are planting.
Hey guys, Future Brooke here. I was only able to really sprinkle in like some video footage of me amending the soil, so I thought I would kind of sprinkle that in, but I thought we could just sit and talk about soil amendments and getting your soil prepped and lessons I've learned. So I've got a latte and a sparkling water because I couldn't figure out if I needed hydration or caffeination. You probably already saw the clip of me at the garden. I forgot my memory card, so it's fine. But wanted to just kind of go over how I approach soil maintenance, kind of what I believe, what I've seen to be true, and what works for me and my region. So first and foremost, I operate on a no-dig method. So what does that mean? Charles Dowding coined the term no-dig, I believe, and basically it's where you don't till the soil. Tilling the soil isn't very good for the soil, honestly. It doesn't help build the microbiome that soil contains with all the different microbes and fungus and all the stuff that makes soil really alive and rich for plants to grow. So I go on a no-dig method, which means we're not digging that up. We're doing minimal disturbance to it. The only thing that I do to my soil is we are slight clay. So that means it can get a little compacted. So all I do, and I think I have a good enough video clip to show of this.
Okay, I think I decided I'm gonna try and film as much of this as I can on my phone, and I'll sprinkle it in to the explanation part. So first things first, we hauled in all of our soil amendments. Wow, holding this phone straight is going to be fun. And then I'm raking back whatever mulch was left. I used a cedar mulch last year. I didn't do very heavy mulching. I should have. But first you want to clear all your mulch, and then pick any weeds that you can. And then what we're gonna do is, using a pitchfork, you can also use what's called a broad fork, but those are expensive. You can use a pitchfork and actually just dig the fork down in to create holes, and that's gonna help aerate your soil and also get your soil amendments to actually drop into the ground.
All I do is I just stick a pitchfork. You can also use a broad fork. Broad fork is kind of expensive, but you stick a pitchfork in the ground all the way down.
Okay, y'all, so this is what this looks like. See where I've just put the pitchfork in the ground? And all I do is I stick it down and I kind of put my weight in front and then in back to aerate the soil.
And then you kind of move back and forth. All that's gonna do is put oxygen into the soil, and it's gonna allow your soil amendments that you put on the soil to kind of get in there and do their thing. So that's first and foremost. How much do you want to disturb the soil? I have found a lot of success going off of a no-dig mentality. So that's kind of like step number one. How much do you want to disturb the soil? I encourage you to do a lot of research about what's good in your region. Another thing is people will do what's called a soil test. Soil testing is never something I've done. It's useful to do because then you know exactly what soil amendments you need. I've never done it because I just haven't. I'm not very patient with things like that, if I'm being honest. So step number 2 is what soil amendments do you want to use? You can go organic or non-organic. Obviously, I encourage you to go as organic as you can. What I used in my community plot was, it's called Black Cow. It's composted cow manure. And the other thing I used was, on half I used bagged compost, and on the other half I used compost that we make at the community plot. And I sifted it, and my back really hurts. But that was what I spread. And so you pitchfork first, and then you spread your amendments. And then we'll get to the next step, but back to amendments. There's all kinds of soil amendments. There's fish emulsion, there's bone meal, there's blood meal, there's feather meal. I've used, so let's go backwards. In the fall, what I used as a soil amendment was, they were like these little pellets, and you sprinkled them and you watered them in, and they like kind of like released over time. Not my favorite. It produced great plants, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't like the way that it slowly broke down. I guess it probably fed the plants for longer because of that, but it was just kind of weird. I felt like I was putting like guinea pig pellets on my garden. It was a little weird for me. I didn't love that. But then what I really encourage you to do, especially if this is your first garden, is last spring when I was planting out my community plot for the first time, well, planting it out for spring, I basically divided my plot into 4 sections, okay? So the top left section, I broad forked, and I used a Fox Farm soil conditioner, which I really didn't know what that was at the time. I just thought that that's what you were supposed to do. So I broad forked and used Fox Farm soil conditioner. On the top right quadrant, I broad forked and I used compost from the garden. And then in the bottom section, I did not broad fork at all. And then on one section I used compost, and on the other section I did nothing. So basically how that worked out was the sections that I broad forked were definitely the best. I think I brought in a lot of weed seeds with some straw that I mulched with, and we'll get to mulch in a second. So that was kind of that issue, was, you know, that. But you can bring in weed seeds with compost, and especially if you didn't make the compost yourself, you have no idea if weeds were put in there, and then the seeds are in there, and it's a whole thing. So I decided broad forking was definitely the way to go. Still, I had pretty good results in the bottom left section where I spread compost but didn't do any broad forking. And then in the section that I did nothing to, I had really crappy green beans, and that was where my peppers were last year, and they just did not do that great. So obviously learned a lot. So this year what I did was I broad forked, well, I didn't broad fork, I pitchforked everything to aerate the soil, and then I used the decomposed cow manure and compost. One of them was an organic bagged compost, the other one was compost we made at the garden. And then the next step after you have aerated your soil and amended your soil is mulching. And this is very important in the South, especially because it gets very hot here. It gets very hot, it gets very buggy, and weeds just get out of control really quickly. But the other thing that mulch helps with is moisture control. So obviously when it gets really hot outside, it's harder for the, it's harder for the plants in the ground to retain moisture. And so if you have a good inch or 2 layer of mulch, that's going to help you a lot. Now here in Texas, we have cedar trees everywhere. Cedar is pretty big out here. Cedar's pretty big out here, so you can actually find organic cedar mulch pretty much all the time for a pretty good price. I think this morning my boyfriend and I went and spread the mulch. I'll insert a picture here so you can see. And we probably got at least a 2-inch layer down with 8 bags that were 2 cubic feet each. And I think I spent like $28. So mulch is definitely worth it. I tried to mulch with straw last year, like I mentioned, and ton of weed seeds just everywhere, and it got the better of me for sure. And it was like the weed that got brought in was this really long, like thick bladed grass, and it was so terrible. It was so bad. I just abandoned the garden for like a month and a half because I just couldn't deal with it. So we're really trying not to have that happen this year. So that's what I did at the community plot, was shredded red cedar. Something to avoid with mulch is you do not want to get dyed mulch. Do not get dyed mulch. The dye that they put on that stuff is toxic. Another thing you can use as mulch, which I use in my backyard, are chopped up leaves. So at our house, we have some oak trees around us. We have a big oak tree in our front yard. Oak leaves are really like thick and hard. You have to chop them up with a mower before you use them in your garden, or they're actually going to act as like a barrier for the water, and the water is actually not going to get down to the ground. So they take a long time to break down. They're a really great mulch. They're free. If I would have had the wherewithal to chop up some of our oak leaves and put them in a bag and take them to the community plot, I could have had free mulch, but alas, I did not. So the mulch that I put in there in the fall in the backyard gardens is honestly still there. So I probably won't remulch back there until I have to, but luckily for me, not so luckily, oak leaves fall all year round, so we are never in a short supply of oak leaves. But I can already tell with the heirloom tomato bed that right now just has marigolds in it. It'll get planted out next weekend. That soil is already becoming like hard and compacted, and it's not really like keeping that nice moisture because there's no mulch on it. So mulch is very important. I decided this year to mulch before I planted because last year I found that trying to put mulch down around these little seedlings was like really difficult. And I think a couple seedlings actually got stepped on, and it was just, it was kind of just a lot to like manage getting the mulch around all the seedlings. I would so much rather just spread it all when everything's flat and you can't ruin anything. And then kind of move, like literally scoot the mulch to the side, dig a hole, put the plant in, and then put the mulch back. But mulch is critically important, and I cannot describe to you how important it is, because it's kind of nature's way, honestly. Like if you think about it like in a forest or something like that, you're gonna have leaves that fall to the ground and they cover the ground. Mother Earth likes to be covered. I know I sound a little like hippy dippy, but the earth likes to be covered, and if you don't put a cover on it, what's going to happen is it's going to grow weeds, and that's how it's going to cover itself. So you always need to make sure that you cover your soil with mulch, some type of mulch. Chopped up leaves, hardwood mulch is great because it takes forever to break down. Straw, if you've had a good experience, go for it, but I have not had a good experience. So that is the half of this vlog probably, and talking about mulch and, you know, soil amendments. It is very critically important to give back to the soil what you've taken away from it. You know, like anything in life, the earth doesn't just give and give and give and give. We have to give back to the earth for the earth to give to us. We will catch up later in the week. I am thoroughly sick of having all of these seedlings in my house. Other exciting thing that's happening is I got grow bags for tomatoes. So I'm actually gonna do a little summer-long experiment where I grow the same tomatoes in a 20-gallon grow bag that I'm growing in the ground, and we're gonna see which ones do better. I didn't quite realize how big a 20-gallon grow bag would be, but that's okay. So in the spirit of soil amendment and mulch week, apparently we are going to be filling those 20-gallon grow bags. Hey guys, what is up? So today Lana would like to say hi. Hey girl, what are you doing? So nice. You know, you're so big that you completely block my whole personage. Yeah. Okay, so like I was saying, kind of on the topic of soil amendments, I got these in the mail. These are 20-gallon grow bags. So I'm doing a bit of an experiment with my heirloom tomatoes. I'm going to plant them in the ground using the no-dig method here on my left, and I'm going to plant the same varieties, maybe a couple different ones, but I'm going to plant most of the same varieties in grow bags to kind of show you what the difference is. These are massive grow bags. I was trying to choose between the 15 and the 20, and I couldn't find super clear information on the internet about whether a 15 or a 20 would be better for growing tomatoes, because tomatoes do root pretty deeply. So I just went ahead and got the 20 because go big or go home. Well, then once I unfolded it and realized how large it was, I thought to myself, Brooke, how are you gonna fill this thing? It's gonna be pretty expensive to fill them. And so what I did, which I'm gonna show you guys this. I filled them probably a quarter to a third of the way with leaves. So we have a pretty big tree in our front yard that drops leaves all the time, so I just raked up some leaves and I was able to fill pretty much all of the bags. So kind of what I wanted to get at too, are there really economical ways of gardening. In no way do I ever want to come off on this channel as somebody who just has like discretionary income all over the place, because I definitely don't. I don't have some crazy high-paying job. I just make do with what I have, and to build all these gardens back here, I saved up money for months, you know, and I plan for these things because they're really important to me, and it really just kind of like fills my heart with a lot of joy. So I plan for them financially. And so using a free resource like leaves in my yard, that really helps cut down on costs in terms of soil. And then honestly, I got a gift card from my company for Christmas that I'm just now getting like this week, and that's what I'll use to pay for the rest of the soil to fill these beds. So there are ways to go about doing gardening that don't have to be super expensive. These grow bags, I mean, obviously they're massive. Like, you don't have to get ones this big, but even like these grow bags, it was a pack of 12 20-gallon grow bags for like 25 bucks. So just kind of wanted to encourage you that you can do this kind of stuff really economically. That was our composting truck. But anyways, yeah, I just kind of wanted to like throw some encouragement out there, because I think it's really easy to like kind of start to learn about gardening and get really overwhelmed by like how expensive it can be, because just like any hobby, it can be expensive, right? Like if you start running, you could go out and buy the nicest running shoes and the nicest pre-workout and protein powder, or you could just use what you have. You could just throw on whatever old scrubby tennis shoes you have and just go run. So just kind of wanted to put that out there, that you don't have to go do all these things. There's plenty of really economical ways to garden. So we are pretty much wrapped up talking about soil amendments for the week. We covered a lot. And honestly, research is your friend. Every area is different, so things that are going to work in different areas are just going to be different. I can tell you this, if you dig down in your ground and you find earthworms, that's a great sign. I told that to my next door neighbor, and he was planting some trees the other day, and he found a big fat earthworm and handed it to me over the fence. And these are the kind of neighbors you like to have. So to round out this week's vlog, next week's gonna be super exciting because it'll be planting week. So I will be showing you guys how I plant tomatoes. Very exciting. We're also gonna plant some squash. I'm not sure how much of the process I'm actually going to show because my mom's gonna be here helping me, and I just can't imagine she wants to be on camera. But that's okay. I will save some tomatoes for you guys to plant, and then I will show you guys what everything looks like. So I guess to finish this out, I will give you guys a seedling update. If you watched the vlog last week, I was repotting some seedlings that were struggling pretty hard, and I am so pleased to say that they're coming back and they look great, and actually all the tomato seedlings look great. So yeah, let's round out this vlog by showing you that your tomato seedlings can be saved, and mine are living proof. Alright guys, so here's the tomato seedling hospital. Now, what you want to look at is this new growth. It looks nice and green. It's coming out very like straight and vibrant, and like even this one, like we're just gonna help him get rid of that gross yellow leaf. You can pinch these off and it's really not a big deal. So like, look at that new growth. It looks great. It's not curling under. So things are getting much better over here in the tomato seedling hospital. And then you have like seedlings that look like this and are just big and are, well, I guess their roots aren't busting out quite yet, but the rest of them are looking good. Thank you guys so much for watching. The soil mending and the mulching, probably one of my most hated parts of gardening, if I'm being honest. It requires a lot of manual labor and a lot of like focus and intention, but if you do it and you do it right, it is so worth it. I didn't do it right last year. This year I'm doing it right. And it's gonna be good. It's going to be very worth it. So, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and I will see you next week.